Petty Officer First Class Lauren Davis stood at the edge of the Olympic-sized swimming pool at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, her hands trembling slightly as she stared at the chlorinated water that sparkled under the California sun at 12 p.m. Around her, 12 other rescue swimmers prepared for their quarterly qualification test, their movements confident and relaxed in a way that Lauren envied more than she could express. Which city are you watching from? Share it in the comments. Maybe someone else from your city is here too. And if you believe heroes can appear in the most unexpected ways, hit subscribe and give this video a like. Master Chief Petty Officer Marcus Rodriguez, the senior rescue swimmer instructor, reviewed his clipboard with growing frustration. In his 23 years of Navy service, he had never encountered a situation quite like Lauren Davis. She held the military occupational specialty of rescue swimmer, had completed the grueling training pipeline, and possessed all the certifications required for her job. Yet she couldn't pass a basic swim qualification to save her life. "Davis," Master Chief Rodriguez called out, his voice carrying across the pool area with the authority of someone who had supervised thousands of swim tests. "This is attempt number 6. You know the standards: 500 meters freestyle, followed by 200 meters backstroke, completed within the time limit." Lauren nodded, trying to control the anxiety that made her chest feel tight whenever she approached deep water. The other rescue swimmers were already warming up, their strokes smooth and powerful as they prepared for what should have been a routine qualification. For them, swimming was as natural as breathing. For Lauren, it had become a nightmare that threatened to end her naval career. But what none of them knew was that Lauren Davis had once been considered one of the most capable rescue swimmers in Navy history, with combat rescues and classified operations that would make her current struggles seem impossible to believe. The truth was buried in files that required presidential-level clearance to access, and Lauren was under strict orders to maintain her cover regardless of the personal cost. "On my mark," Master Chief Rodriguez announced, "swimmers enter the water and begin the 500-meter freestyle." Lauren dove into the pool with the mechanical precision of someone who had performed the same motion thousands of times. But something went wrong the moment she hit the water. Instead of the confident strokes that had once made her legendary among rescue swimmers, she began thrashing with apparent panic, her technique dissolving into the desperate movements of someone fighting for survival. She managed barely 50 meters before grabbing the pool edge, gasping for breath, while the other swimmers continued their steady progress through the water. Master Chief Rodriguez shook his head in disgust, making another note on his clipboard that would contribute to Lauren's growing reputation as the rescue swimmer who was afraid of water. "Davis, what the hell was that?" Rodriguez demanded as Lauren pulled herself out of the pool, water streaming from her flight suit. "You're supposed to be a rescue swimmer, not someone who needs rescuing." Lauren stood at attention, water pooling around her feet, unable to meet Rodriguez's eyes. "Master Chief, I'm sorry. I'll do better next time." "There might not be a next time, Davis," Rodriguez replied grimly. "This is your 6th failure. Command is asking serious questions about your suitability for continued service as a rescue swimmer." The other swimmers had completed their qualification and were climbing out of the pool, their performance effortless and professional. They cast curious glances at Lauren, wondering how someone could fail such a basic requirement for their job. The whispered conversations were becoming harder to ignore. "How did she make it through rescue swimmer school?" muted Petty Officer Thompson, toweling off after his flawless performance. "Maybe she cheated on the training somehow," suggested Petty Officer Martinez. "There's no way someone this bad at swimming could have legitimately earned the rating." "I heard she's getting administratively separated," added Petty Officer Wilson. "Command's tired of dealing with her failures." Lauren absorbed these comments with the practiced stoicism of someone who had endured months of similar criticism. She knew exactly what her teammates thought of her: incompetent, possibly fraudulent, and definitely unsuitable for the demanding work of naval rescue operations. If they only knew what she had accomplished before arriving at Coronado, their opinions might be very different. But Lauren's actual service record was classified at levels that made normal military records look like public information, and she was under orders to maintain her cover as an incompetent rescue swimmer, regardless of how much damage it did to her reputation and career prospects. After the failed swim test, Lauren reported to the office of Lieutenant Commander Sarah Patterson, the officer in charge of rescue swimmer training at Coronado. Patterson had been watching Lauren's struggles with growing concern, unable to understand how someone could possess all the technical certifications for rescue swimming while being unable to perform basic water skills. Davis, Lieutenant Commander Patterson began, studying Lauren's training file with obvious confusion. I've reviewed your records, and something doesn't add up. You completed rescue swimmer school at Elizabeth City with acceptable scores, but you can't pass a basic swim test here at Coronado. Lauren stood at attention, knowing that this conversation would determine whether her cover assignment continued or whether her inability to maintain the deception would force a premature end to her mission. Ma'am, I acknowledge that my performance has been unsatisfactory. Patterson leaned back in her chair, studying Lauren with the analytical eye of someone trying to solve a puzzle. Davis, your technical knowledge is excellent. You can recite rescue procedures perfectly. Your equipment knowledge is comprehensive, and your understanding of maritime rescue operations exceeds that of most senior petty officers. Lauren remained silent, uncertain how much she was authorized to reveal. Patterson continued, "But you panic in the water like someone who has never seen an ocean. How do you explain that contradiction?" Lauren had rehearsed answers for this question, but none of them felt adequate when facing an officer who was clearly intelligent enough to recognize the inconsistencies in her story. "Ma'am, I think the pressure of qualification testing affects my performance in ways that don't impact my technical knowledge." Patterson wasn't buying it. "Davis, I've seen performance anxiety, and this isn't it. You move in the water like someone who is genuinely afraid, not like someone who is nervous about testing." The conversation was interrupted by an emergency alarm that began blaring across the base, followed by announcements over the public address system, requesting immediate response from all available rescue swimmers to a training accident at the underwater demolition training facility. Lieutenant Commander Patterson grabbed her radio and responded to the emergency call. Within minutes, she had assembled every available rescue swimmer, including Lauren, for immediate deployment to what appeared to be a serious underwater accident. The scene at the UDT training facility was chaotic but controlled, with emergency responders coordinating rescue efforts for 3 Navy divers who had become trapped in an underwater training structure that had partially collapsed during a routine exercise. The divers had air supply and were in communication with the surface, but the structural damage made conventional rescue approaches extremely dangerous. Master Chief Rodriguez was coordinating the rescue effort, but the complexity of the situation was testing the limits of standard rescue procedures. The trapped divers were in 60 feet of water, inside a training structure that was unstable and could collapse further if disturbed by rescue activities. "We need swimmers who can work in tight spaces under extreme conditions," Rodriguez announced to the assembled rescue team. "This isn't a standard open water rescue. We need precision work in a confined environment with multiple hazards." Lieutenant Commander Patterson looked at her available swimmers, all of whom were experienced and capable, but none of whom had specialized training for the kind of technical rescue that this situation required. Standard rescue swimmer training focused on open water operations, not complex underwater structural work. Lauren stood with the other swimmers, listening to the briefing while calculating the technical requirements for the rescue in her mind. She knew exactly what equipment would be needed, what approach would minimize risk to both rescuers and victims, and how to execute the operation with maximum efficiency. But revealing that knowledge would expose capabilities that she was supposed to keep hidden. The first rescue attempt failed when the assigned swimmer encountered structural complications that hadn't been anticipated in the initial assessment. The training structure was more unstable than expected, and conventional rescue approaches were proving inadequate for the complex technical challenges involved. "We need someone with advanced technical rescue experience," Rodriguez admitted reluctantly. "This is beyond standard rescue swimmer capabilities." That's when Lauren made a decision that would change everything, despite knowing it would expose her true identity and potentially compromise her classified assignment. "Master Chief," Lauren said quietly, stepping forward from the group of assembled swimmers, "I'd like to volunteer for the rescue." Rodriguez looked at her with disbelief. "Davis, you can't even pass a basic swim test. This rescue requires someone with advanced underwater skills." Lauren met his gaze steadily. "Master Chief, I understand the risks involved, but I believe I can execute this rescue safely and effectively." The other rescue swimmers exchanged glances of amazement. The woman who had failed 6 consecutive swim tests was volunteering for the most technically demanding rescue any of them had ever encountered. Lieutenant Commander Patterson studied Lauren with new interest. Davis, what makes you think you can handle a rescue that experienced swimmers are finding too challenging? Lauren realized she had reached the point where maintaining her cover would prevent her from potentially saving lives, and that consideration outweighed any operational security concerns. Ma'am, I have experience with technical rescues in confined underwater environments. I can provide the specialized capabilities that this situation requires. Rodriguez was incredulous. Davis, where the hell would you get that kind of experience? You can't even swim laps in a pool. Lauren took a deep breath, knowing that her next words would shatter the carefully constructed identity she had maintained for over a year. Master Chief, I can't discuss the specifics, but I have operational experience with complex underwater rescues in combat environments. My apparent difficulties with basic swimming are not representative of my actual capabilities. The silence that followed was profound. Every rescue swimmer present was trying to process the implications of what Lauren had just revealed. Lieutenant Commander Patterson was the first to speak. Davis, are you telling us that your failures in training have been deliberate? Lauren chose her words carefully. Ma'am, I'm telling you that my actual capabilities are different from what my training performance would suggest. Rodriguez stepped closer to Lauren, studying her with new attention. Davis, if you're saying what I think you're saying, then you've been lying to us for over a year about your abilities. Lauren remained at attention. Master Chief, I've been following orders regarding how to present my capabilities during training exercises. The implications hit everyone simultaneously. Lauren Davis wasn't an incompetent rescue swimmer who was washing out of the program. She was someone with classified experience who had been ordered to conceal her true abilities for reasons that none of them were cleared to understand. Patterson made a command decision. Davis, can you execute this rescue safely? Yes, ma'am, I can. Rodriguez was still processing the revelation. Davis, if you screw this up, it's not just your career on the line. 3 sailors' lives depend on this rescue. Lauren nodded grimly. I understand, Master Chief. I won't let them down. 20 minutes later, Lauren was suited up in advanced diving gear that she handled with the fluid competence of someone completely familiar with complex underwater equipment. Her pre-dive checks were thorough and professional, demonstrating technical knowledge that surprised everyone who had been watching her struggle with basic swimming skills. As she entered the water, Lauren's entire demeanor transformed. The apparent fear and hesitation that had characterized her pool training disappeared, replaced by the confident movements of someone completely comfortable in an underwater environment. Lauren descended to the collapsed training structure with mechanical precision, navigating through the complex underwater obstacle course with the skill of someone who had performed similar rescues under far more challenging conditions. Her approach to the trapped divers was methodical and efficient, demonstrating capabilities that exceeded those of rescue swimmers with decades of experience. The rescue itself was a masterpiece of technical underwater work. Lauren assessed the structural situation, determined the safest extraction sequence, and executed the rescue of all 3 trapped divers without causing additional collapse or creating unnecessary risk to anyone involved. Her underwater work was so precise and professional that Master Chief Rodriguez found himself watching through the surface monitoring equipment with growing amazement. This wasn't the same person who had been failing basic swim tests for months. When Lauren surfaced with the 3rd rescued diver, the entire rescue team was waiting with expressions of awe and confusion. She had just executed one of the most technically demanding rescues any of them had ever witnessed, demonstrating skills that suggested extensive experience with combat rescue operations. Master Chief Rodriguez was the first to speak as Lauren climbed out of the water. Davis, that was some of the most impressive rescue work I've seen in 23 years of Navy service. Where the hell did you learn to do that? Lauren removed her diving mask and looked at Rodriguez with an expression that was no longer that of a struggling trainee, but of someone who had been concealing exceptional capabilities. Master Chief, that's classified, she said simply. Lieutenant Commander Patterson approached Lauren as she was removing her diving equipment. Davis, I think we need to have a very different conversation about your background and your assignment here. Lauren nodded. Yes, ma'am. I believe my cover has been compromised by necessity. 2 hours later, Lauren found herself in a secure conference room at Coronado Naval Base, facing Lieutenant Commander Patterson and a civilian man who had introduced himself only as Mr. Collins from Naval Special Warfare Command. Petty Officer Davis, Mr. Collins began, opening a file folder that was significantly thicker than Lauren's official personnel record. Your performance today has raised some questions about your actual background and mission here at Coronado. Lauren sat at attention. Yes, sir. Lieutenant Commander Patterson studied Lauren with new respect. Davis, I've just reviewed your actual service record, and it's illuminating. You're not a struggling rescue swimmer. You're someone with extensive combat rescue experience who has been assigned here under deep cover. Mr. Collins continued, Lauren, for the past 14 months, you've been conducting classified assessment of our rescue swimmer training programs while maintaining cover as an incompetent student to avoid detection and maintain operational security. Lauren finally relaxed slightly. Yes, sir. The mission has required me to appear incapable while actually evaluating training effectiveness and identifying potential security vulnerabilities in our rescue swimmer programs. Patterson was impressed despite her frustration. Davis, maintaining that level of deception for 14 months, including fooling experienced rescue swimmers and instructors, required exceptional discipline. Lauren nodded. Ma'am, it's been the most challenging assignment of my career, accepting professional humiliation while suppressing every instinct to demonstrate my actual capabilities. Mr. Collins leaned forward. Lauren, your assessment reports on our training programs have been invaluable. Your recommendations for improving rescue swimmer training have already been implemented at facilities across the Navy. However, Patterson interjected, your cover has been completely blown by today's rescue. Every swimmer at this facility now knows that you possess capabilities far beyond what you've been demonstrating. Lauren had been expecting this conversation. Sir, has my cover compromise affected the mission? Mr. Collins shook his head. Actually, it's provided us with an opportunity to transition you to a new phase of the assignment. Patterson explained the plan they had developed. Davis, we're going to reveal part of your actual background to explain your sudden demonstration of advanced capabilities. Lauren looked interested. Ma'am, what background will be revealed? Mr. Collins opened Lauren's modified personnel file. Your official record will show that you were recently cleared to return to full duty after treatment for post-traumatic stress related to classified combat rescue operations. Your previous training difficulties will be attributed to PTSD-related anxiety that has been successfully treated. Lauren considered this cover story. Sir, that would explain both my previous struggles and my current capabilities? Exactly, Patterson replied. It provides a medical explanation for your apparent incompetence while acknowledging your actual skills without revealing the classified nature of your real mission here. Mr. Collins leaned forward. Lauren, this will allow you to continue your assessment work while training at a level that matches your actual abilities. You'll be transitioned from student to assistant instructor, which will provide better access to program evaluation opportunities. Lauren felt relief for the first time in over a year. Sir, this means I can stop pretending to be afraid of water? Patterson smiled. Davis, after what you demonstrated today, nobody would believe that act anyway. Mr. Collins stood up. Lauren, you've accomplished exceptional work under extraordinarily difficult circumstances. Your ability to maintain cover while conducting comprehensive program assessment has provided insights that couldn't be obtained through conventional evaluation methods. Lauren felt pride mixed with exhaustion. Thank you, sir. Hiding my capabilities while watching other swimmers struggle with problems I could have helped them solve has been incredibly frustrating. Patterson nodded understanding. Davis, that level of personal sacrifice for mission success exemplifies the best traditions of naval service. 3 weeks later, Lauren stood beside the same pool at Coronado Naval Base where she had failed 6 consecutive swim tests, now wearing the instructor badge that marked her as a certified rescue swimmer trainer. In front of her, a class of 20 students was practicing advanced rescue techniques that incorporated lessons learned from her classified assessment work. Master Chief Rodriguez approached Lauren during a training break, his expression a mixture of respect and amazement. Petty Officer Davis, your students are progressing faster than any class I've seen in years. Your teaching methods are producing exceptional results. Lauren smiled, watching her students apply techniques that represented the best practices she had identified during her undercover evaluation of the training program. Master Chief, I'm just sharing methods that have proven effective in real-world rescue situations. Rodriguez nodded approvingly. Davis, I have to ask, how difficult was it to pretend to be incompetent for over a year while watching students struggle with problems you could have solved immediately? Lauren considered the question. Master Chief, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my naval career. Every instinct told me to help, to demonstrate proper technique, to share knowledge that could improve their performance. But the mission required me to appear incapable while secretly evaluating how well our training programs prepare rescue swimmers for real operations. Rodriguez was impressed. Davis, that level of discipline and sacrifice goes beyond normal duty requirements. Lauren looked out at her students who were now practicing techniques that would make them more effective, rescue swimmers because of insights gained during her undercover assessment. Master Chief, the mission wasn't about personal achievement. It was about making our rescue swimmer training better for everyone who comes after us. As Lauren watched her students continue their training, she reflected on the unique challenges of her assignment. She had voluntarily accepted professional humiliation, personal embarrassment, and career damage to accomplish evaluation work that couldn't be achieved through conventional assessment methods. Her phone buzzed with an encrypted message: "Assessment complete. Training program improvements implemented Navy-wide based on your recommendations. Exceptional performance under challenging circumstances." Lauren smiled as she put her phone away. She had proven that sometimes the greatest service requires accepting misunderstanding, that the most valuable work often goes unrecognized, and that true professionalism sometimes means allowing others to think less of your abilities while accomplishing objectives that improve everyone's effectiveness. The woman who had been known as the rescue swimmer afraid of water had actually been one of the Navy's most experienced combat rescue specialists, conducting classified evaluation work that would improve training for generations of future rescue swimmers.